There are people in this world who wear their power quietly, not because they are ashamed of it, not because they lack confidence, but because they have learned something that most people never do, that the most dangerous thing you can be is underestimated. This is the story of Nadia, and it begins, as the best stories do, with everyone in the room being completely wrong about who she was. Nadia was 34 years old when she first walked into Marcus's house. She had answered a cleaning services ad, showed up on time, did the work thoroughly, charged a fair rate, and said very little. Marcus was 41, a property developer, the kind of man who had built his identity entirely around the page of success. The right car, the right address, the right watch, the right way of speaking to people who he considered below him. And Nadia, who arrived every Thursday morning with her cleaning supplies, was very much in that category. He was not cruel to her. He was something worse. He was indifferent, the way people are indifferent to furniture, or weather, or background noise. She was simply part of the house. She cleaned it. She left. He paid the invoice without reading it. This went on for 3 years. What Marcus did not know, what nobody in his circle knew, was that Nadia was not a cleaner. Or rather, she was not only a cleaner. She had started a cleaning company at 26, built it over 8 years into a business with 43 employees and contracts across the city. She had a degree in business management. She had investments in 4 properties, and one of those properties was the building that Marcus lived in. She had purchased it 4 years before she ever knocked on his door. It was one of 11 properties in her portfolio. She had never thought much about who lived there. It was simply an asset, managed by her property company, maintained by her team, until one Thursday morning when a new client request came in for Unit 14, and she decided to take it herself. Not for any strategic reason. She simply had a gap in her schedule that week, and she liked to stay connected to the ground level of her cleaning business. So she went, and she met Marcus, and she cleaned his home, and he looked through her, the way people look through windows, seeing only what is on the other side, never the glass itself. For 3 years, she came every Thursday. She watched how he lived. She watched how he spoke about his deals on loud phone calls he never thought to lower his voice for. She watched how he treated the delivery drivers, the maintenance staff, the woman at the front desk of his building. She watched all of it, and she said nothing, because she was not there to correct him. She was there to do her job, and she did it perfectly, every single week. For 3 years, the moment everything changed came on a Thursday in November. Marcus had a meeting scheduled in the building's shared conference room, a significant one, a group of investors he had been trying to impress for months. And as he walked through the lobby that morning, straightening his tie, rehearsing his pitch in his head, he saw something that stopped him completely. Nadia, but not Nadia the cleaner. Nadia in a tailored jacket. Nadia with a leather portfolio under her arm. Nadia shaking hands with the building manager. Nadia being greeted by name by the front desk staff, not as a contractor, but as the owner. He stood in the lobby for a moment, trying to reorganize what he was seeing into something that made sense. And then one of the investors he had been trying to impress for months walked through the front door and greeted Nadia like an old colleague. Because she was. Marcus introduced himself. Nadia shook his hand, smiled politely, and said, "Yes, I know who you are." The meeting happened. Marcus gave his pitch. It was good. He was good at pitching. But the entire time, across the table, Nadia sat quietly, occasionally asking a question, the kind of question that only someone who understood the numbers at a very deep level would ask, each one landing with a precision that shifted the energy in the room slightly, away from Marcus, toward her, not because she was trying to take anything from him, simply because competence, real competence, has a gravity of its own. After the meeting, Marcus found her in the lobby. He said, "I did not know you were an investor." She said, "You never asked." He said, "You clean my house." She said, "I own your building." He laughed, assuming it was a joke. She did not laugh back, and in the silence that followed, he understood that it was not. I want to pause here, because I think this moment, this specific moment of a person realizing they completely misread someone, is one of the most instructive things a story can offer. Marcus had spent 3 years building an assumption about Nadia, based entirely on the role she filled in his life, without once asking who she was outside of it. He had decided what she was, from the first moment, and never revisited that decision. And the cost of that assumption was not just embarrassment. It was 3 years of treating a person who had real power in his world as though she were invisible. What happened next was not dramatic. Nadia did not punish him. She did not use her position as his landlord to make his life difficult. She simply continued being exactly who she had always been. Professional, precise, quietly formidable. She continued owning the building. She passed the cleaning contract for his unit to one of her team members because she no longer had a gap in her schedule on Thursdays. Her business had grown again. She had a new acquisition to manage. Marcus reached out twice after that Thursday in November, once to apologize, and once, 6 months later, to ask if she would consider co-investing on a project he was developing. She took the second meeting because Nadia was not someone who held grudges. She was someone who held leverage, and she knew the difference. When I asked her what those 3 years of cleaning his house had taught her, she thought about it for a long moment, and then she said, everything. I learned how he made decisions. I learned what he valued. I learned what he was afraid of. I learned that he was actually quite good at his work when his ego was not in the way. And I learned something about myself, that I could walk into any room, in any role, and leave knowing more than when I entered. She smiled, and then she said, the cleaner always sees everything. People just forget that someone is watching. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a room where someone completely underestimated you, where they looked right through you and never once considered what you actually knew or what you were actually capable of? Leave your answer in the comments, because this story is about something more than one woman and one building. It is about the quiet power of being seen clearly by yourself, even when no one else is looking. Cleaning supplies next to a leather portfolio. Both hers, both part of who she is. The building she owns. The building he rents. The building nobody thought to ask her about. Woman at her window. Her city. Her buildings. Her empire built without announcement. The key to one of many buildings. Quiet and simple. The power she always had. The city skyline. Some of those buildings are hers. Nobody looking up knows which ones. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe. Every week on Quiet Reckoning, one real story. One truth. One reckoning. The next story is already on your screen. I will see you there.